A hairy paw reached in and turned on the water. I peered around the corner and saw a she-wolf, busily primping herself for a night on the town. The last thing I remember was the creature's hot breath in my face. I stayed hidden, but not for long. I whistled. She turned and giggled like a schoolgirl. Then she started towards me. I told her she had lovely hair. I realize now it was the wrong thing to say. I grabbed the newspaper and smacked her on the nose. She apparently had never been to obedience school. I rounded the corner and very nearly bumped into a female vampire. She was just starting to leave when I gave myself away. I hid for a moment, then peered around the corner again. I could see she was in no mood for a confrontation. I picked the wrong door. My prize was a hickey that took my breath away. As I reached for the volatile volume, the vamp vaulted into view. I got about 5 feet. The last thing I remember was her hot breath on my neck. I was reaching for the door handle when suddenly...
The one you seek is in that room, but she won't be living with you. Do you want to know why? Because of the inherent power of the vampire over the inferior human will.
Then she smiled, revealing teeth that would look more at home on a wolverine. I ignored her and got about 2 feet before she grabbed me. I pulled off the bedsheet and found the book-burning vampire. I rushed into the closet and hid, but not for long. I crawled under the bed, but it only managed to delay the inevitable. I turned and ran and found myself trapped on a sofa. I wandered into what looked like an ancient Egyptian low-rent housing project. I could make out curse, ham, honor, I. The curse of Hammon-Ra. When I turned to leave, I saw someone blocking the door. Obviously, the tomb's present resident. Just then, I spotted a prowler at the window. I tried to run past, but when I opened the basket, a foul smell filled the room, sort of like 3,000-year-old gym socks. It was the last thing I remember. He seemed surprised at first, but quickly got over his shyness. I let him have it, but he insisted on giving it back to me. While the mummy watched from the doorway, I examined the contents of the basket. I took the scroll and started to unroll it. A fungus started to form on my hand. It turned out that the scroll was nothing more or less than the credits for this low-budget picture. The curse, however, was real. I returned to the tomb to do a little pilfering, but I didn't count on the curse of the rubber cobra. Ow! Low-budget movie. I hurried in and ran into a Looney Tune in a straitjacket. Or rather, he ran into me. Someone had left a fire burning. The room was dark, so I lifted the shade to allow some moonlight to filter in.
You mind? Vladimir told me I would not be disturbed. I suppose an evening of intellectual stimulation tucked away from that dog-eat-dog world is simply too much to ask.
I started to apologize, hoping he would change his outlook. He did more than that. I stepped forward, fully intending to teach him some manners. But you know what they say about teaching an old dog new tricks. I tried everything, even offered to get him a rhinestone flea collar, but to no avail. I grabbed a stick to use as a weapon. Unfortunately, it was used against me, quite effectively, too. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was something odd about the woman in the kitchen.
If you're hungry, get it yourself! There ain't no room service in this hotel!
I think maybe it was her 3-day beard. I decided I wasn't too hungry after all, and started to leave. She took it as a personal insult.
Oh, food not good enough for you, eh? I said that's enough!
I stumbled into some kind of witch's coven.
Best not stick around, cutie. Morbia's not playing with a full deck tonight.
I tried to pass through the room,
Grabbing him quickly.
but I didn't get very far.
The Count is the true master of this house. To oppose him is to gamble with your life. Pick a card. Low card. You should know better than to trouble me. You have the brains of an insect, and an insect you shall be.
I started to feel dizzy. I could feel myself rapidly shrinking, becoming the size of an insect. She put a small voodoo doll on the table
You have overstayed your welcome.
and plunged a needle into its heart. Suddenly, a snarling, hairy beast leapt from the bushes and attacked me. I ran through the woods. Then, without warning, I was jumped by a refugee from Treasure Island. I went looking for trouble and found it in the form of a phantom friar who didn't appreciate interruption. No sense of humor, I guess. Just as I picked up the papers, the candle lit itself, and a funky phantom friar floated into the room. I extinguished the candle and the phantom friar disappeared, only to reappear seconds later. I could tell he didn't appreciate my efforts.
Take a hike, sweetheart.
He wanted money, all right.
Spectre, Mr. Vasilini wants to give you 5 good reasons why you should pay him the money tonight.
The room was crawling with vermin. It was one of Vasilini's boys.
Spectre, you're a hard man to locate. Secretary told me I could find you here. Time's up, Gumshoe. Mr. Vasilini's authorized me to pick up on all outstanding home improvement loans.
I wondered if I should warn him. The bullet just grazed me, but before I blacked out, I saw him get what he deserved. Unfortunately, whatever it was that got the gangster was apparently still hungry. The next room I came to had nothing in it but a bottle of clear liquid. Suddenly, the walls started tumbling down. Smashing through the wall was my buddy the gangster, now some kind of zombie. My bullets seemed to go right through him, and I knew I was in trouble. I ran down the hall straight into the arms of the zombie gangster. Everyone knows you shouldn't stand in a room that's filling with smoke. I felt pretty stupid as I blacked out. The fumes in the room had made it impossible to breathe, and consequently I didn't, so I blacked out.
Hey man, whatever it is you're smoking in here is really starting to do a number on me.
At this point, the fumes made it impossible to breathe, and I blacked out. Returning to the hall, I glanced up to where the sound came from. The loony was wearing a straitjacket, so naturally he ran straight for me. I walked over and opened the green door. The last thing I remember is staring at the hole in his chest where a stake should have been. I thought I heard someone coming. I tried to hide.
No sense trying to hide, Mr. Spectre. I am Baron Otto Derhatchett, and your name is Mud. We have ways of dealing with trespassers here.
What could I do? He had a gun. Before I could move, he zapped me with his ray gun.
Just as I thought. A wise guy. I'm afraid I don't have any use for a brain like yours.
Before I could move, he zapped me with his ray gun. I struggled to break free, my feet coming within inches of the Baron. Then the chair flipped over.
Now look what you've done. You've fallen on your head and probably ruined your brain.
My punches didn't seem to affect him much. My karate chop might have been more effective had I only known karate. 20,000 megavolts coursing through my body prevented me from turning off the power. The creature prevented me from grabbing the gas mask, and we both succumbed to the smoke. I grabbed the lamp, but the Hulk had the hammer. I'd only begun my descent when I was energetically assisted, much to my dismay. I climbed in through the window and was enthusiastically greeted with a sledgehammer. By the time I'd moved close enough to strike, he struck me instead. The creature advanced and I retreated. Then I ran up the rooftop till I saw what lay ahead of me. I was definitely in trouble. I kicked free and rolled away, but I didn't get very far. The last thing I remember is his fist in my nose. An unfriendly face appeared from above, grinning horribly. Ow! I knocked again, loud enough to wake the dead. A moment later, I was greeted at the door with a bottle of wine. Then I realized I wasn't alone. I started past her, but she had other ideas. She had an incredibly strong grip and breath to match. She wasn't much for conversation, but she still managed to get her points across. The room was crawling with vermin, but otherwise empty, or so I thought. If I hadn't been so busy talking, I might have noticed that she wasn't really listening. I bid a fond farewell to the fanged Femfatel and ran up the stairs. I paused to see if I was being followed. I was. I'm not sure what happened next. I vaguely remember staring into someone's eyes. My fear faded as I fled. I felt fine till I fell. So I flipped over and found I'd been followed by a fanged femme fatale with a fried finger. I'm not sure what I expected to do with the candle, but it didn't help. It wasn't till I cut my hand on the broken glass that I realized that the bottle of holy water wasn't shatterproof. I tried to kick her in the chops, but she was too fast for me. Before I could grab the candle, the vampiress materialized in a cloud of dry ice. Unfortunately, my fear of rodents led me straight into the vampiress's arms. Unfortunately, I made so much noise that the vampiress had no trouble finding me. I realized then that I should have listened to my mother and become a dentist. As the voltage surged up my arm, I realized the spear was tamper-proof. I reached for it, but I wasn't quick enough. While I struggled to keep the pirate down, I was also struggling to keep my lunch down, and not doing well in either department. I tried to grab the knife and bow out, but he gave me a stern look and decked me. Then I saw it, and vice versa. I was halfway through the window, looking at the ground below, when I was struck from above by what felt like a Louisville slugger. There, hovering above me, was a bat from the big leagues. I started for the lantern, but it could fly faster than I could crawl. The last thing I remember was its hot breath on my neck. Fortunately, I broke my fall on something soft.
Well, what do you think you're doing? Mother doesn't like anybody playing in her laundry. Do you, Mom? That's right, stay out of my laundry. Why don't you run up those stairs where the butler's been nice enough to hold the elevator for you? I'm just a frail old lady who's... That's right, you heard her.
This guy was obviously a psycho. I moved cautiously towards Mama's boy. It was there, in the cellar, that I discovered the little man with the evil grin.
I've informed the Count of your arrival. He insists that you stay for dinner. Would you like that?
Before I could move, he brought his shovel into my face. He just tightened his grip and laughed. It was too dark to see, so I decided to go back for a candle. Since I didn't get the match lit, I never even saw what hit me. At the top of the stairs, I saw an ugly dwarf.
This is the master's private property, but it's my job to see that it remains private.
Private Eye versus Private Igor, eh? He used my nose to flatten out his shovel. I let go and cracked my head on the steps below. I punched him. He fell. So did I. I gave him the box containing the pirate's soul.
How nice. Thank you.
I knew I had failed. I was powerless to resist him. I threw it in his mouth, expecting him to choke to death. But instead...
Very tasty.
When I looked in his eyes, I knew I had failed. I was powerless to resist him. Quickly, I checked my pockets. My pockets were empty.
I took the liberty of removing everything from your pockets.
This was Count Yorchakunsky. I knew I had failed when I looked into his eyes. I was powerless to resist him. I tried to attack, but...
Stop, Gumshoe!
Count Yorchakunsky stared into my eyes, and I knew I had failed. I blacked out.